So if you want to change your life, my friends, you got to change your physiology and you got to change your focus. By the way, how fast can you change that stuff? How fast, my friends? How fast? How fast? Come on. In a heartbeat, once you rechange your conditioning, that's all you got to do. And you can do it fast. What in your life today, if you wanted to be, could you feel proud about right now? If you wanted to feel proud, if you didn't feel like, I shouldn't be proud, if you wanted to feel proud, what could you be proud of in your life today? Your children, your health, your body. Is there a problem you faced? Instead of running from it, you finally stepped up and handled it? What could you feel proud of in your life today if you wanted to feel proud? And when you think about this thing you're proud of, what about that makes you feel proud? What do you focus on that makes you feel proud? How do you breathe when you really start to feel proud? What's the kind of look on your face that starts to happen when you let yourself feel proud? Think of another area of life. Think of an area of life that you're grateful for. Or if you are not grateful, if you wanted to be grateful, what's an area you could feel grateful for? What could you feel grateful for if you really wanted to feel grateful? How many can think of something you can feel grateful for? And what about that are you grateful for? What do you focus on that makes you feel grateful? How does it feel when you're really, truly feeling filled with gratitude? Here's one. If you wanted to be excited about your life right now, and you were willing to be excited, you were willing to buck everybody else's trend, what could you feel excited about in your life if you wanted to feel excited? What could you get excited about if you really focused on it and you really took it in? And you weren't in a negative place. What could you get excited about if you wanted to be excited in your life? What could you get excited about? When you're really excited about it, what about that excites you? Or when you're really excited, how do you feel? How do you speak? What's your life like? By the way, when you're excited, does it tend to touch other people? Yes or no? Absolutely. By the way, do people have a tendency, by the way, who feels different right now than just even a couple moments ago? Raise your hand and say, I. Why? Because focus is controlled by questions. If you ask a different question continuously, not once, continuously, you will get a different answer. If you ask a lousy question, you get a lousy answer and a lousy state. The brain's like a computer. Ask it a question, it'll have to come up with an answer. Because you deserve it, you idiot. Lousy questions create what? Lousy answers. Ask a better question, get a better answer. Now here's what I want you to get. I want you to get that you can change your state. How fast, guys? How fast? How fast? And if you get the habit of doing it, you'll have a different life.
The number one reason we don't achieve success and we resign ourselves to mediocrity and we get swallowed into failure and discouragement, and it becomes sometimes so deep that we can't see the possibilities that our lives could be. I mean, your life doesn't have to be your current life 30 days from now, but most people can't see that. And the number one reason is this word called grit. Researchers say the number one defining factor of whether we become successful or average is whether we have grit. Grit is the ability to stay true to your vision and not dilute it when you get laughed at. Grit is the ability to try an innovation, experience failure, and to say, I'm going to continue and I'm actually going to learn and use that experience to get me closer on my path to the mountaintop. I mean, what the ordinary person sees as failure, the master simply sees as part of the process of refining your craft. So, number one, you've got to have grit. You've got to literally, when you get knocked down, force yourself to get back up, because then you start to develop a new brain. Yes, you develop a new neural pathway. Yes, you develop new muscle memory. And yes, you develop confidence. Remember that every time you get knocked down, it's an opportunity for you to develop more confidence, develop more experience, develop more inner power. Okay, every time you do something that you didn't feel like doing, like getting back up after you failed, or staying true to yourself after you've been laughed at or told it can't be done, literally, you become more powerful. And every single time you don't feel like persisting, and you do, you take back your power to the thing that you gave your resistance to.
Every time I made a mistake, they became painful mistakes, but with time, I realized that reflecting on those mistakes would give me gems. What I would do is I'd say, why did I make that mistake? And I would learn from that mistake. And I'd write down a rule. So what was helpful for me is I put that rule, these principles, I wrote these principles down. Those principles that I wrote down, I then put into algorithms, in other words, equations. And what I learned by being able to do that is if I took my decision criteria, those principles, and then I tested them back through time, I gained a perspective that was fantastic. I could test them in back 100 years. I could test them in different countries, and I would learn how those rules worked. And by putting all those rules together and then having these algorithms, the computer could replicate my thinking, but it could actually think better than I could, because what it would do is it could process more information, it could process it faster, and it could process it less emotionally. So it was like having a GPS that was next to me while I was also making my decisions, like you're driving in a car and you have both operating. And to have that next to me was, invaluable. It would learn, I would learn, and together we built that.
People are always like, oh, you're such a risk taker. I'm like, I hate risk, man. I'm terrified. And literally, it is terrifying, taking that first step. For me, it was easier because I got fired, but, it's about preparation. We all go through this process, and tell me what you think, Chase. I mean, where you've got the idea, right? And you get that feeling in your stomach and you get all excited, oh my God, then you talk to a friend. And the friend goes, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. I never heard of anything like that. I'd buy that, right? And then you talk to some other people, and then you do the Google search, right?
Is anybody else out there?
Is anybody else doing this? And you try 50 different ways, no one's out there. Well, the first thing I'll tell you is, just because you don't see it on Google doesn't mean 100 companies haven't gone out of business doing the same thing, right? It may not be out. There's a saying in basketball, you're open for a reason, which means you can't shoot, so they're not guarding you, right? It hasn't been done for a reason because every company who's tried it has gone out of business. So the one thing I would tell you is be careful, but once you get past that stage, then what I always tell people is, one, is it something you love to do? Right?
That's so true, because it's going to get hard. Like, just if you're
really
listening,
hard.
It's going to get hard, and if you don't love what you're doing, then it's like that. When shit gets hard, that's when you're going to like, oh man, I'm going to fall in the towel.
Right, because you don't know, right, and you don't have a sense for it. And I'm a real believer that each and every one of us has something we're good at, right? And you've got to figure out, is this something you're good at? I've always been good at selling. I found out I wasn't into computers when I was a kid. Then I found out when I started to teach myself how to code, it was like, oh, I like this. Right? And I would sit there writing software, and I think, okay, I've been working 2 hours, I better get something to eat, and it's been 24 hours, It's just like, what the 24 hours? I mean, okay.
That tells you you're clued in. And it's not just what you care about, it's not just passion, because the circle's overlapping passion and aptitude, right? You want to be good at something. Just because you love basketball
doesn't mean I'm going to be any good at it, right?
Yeah, sure. You can have fun at it, but if you're trying to make a business, a life, a living, then you should.
Yeah, and I always say, don't follow your passion, follow your effort. Right? So you might think you're passionate about playing basketball, playing the guitar, drawing, design, whatever, but where you spend your time is your better indicator, because that's typically what you're good at. And nobody ever quits anything they're good at.
For sure.
When you're good at something, you tend to want to get better.
How do you come with this idea, actually? Sometimes they're pushing the human limit. You are always pushing the human limit. Why?
Well, I think about what technology solution is necessary in order to achieve the particular goal, and then try to make as much progress in that direction as possible. I think being a multi-planet species and being out there among the stars is important for the long-term survival of humanity, and that's one reason, kind of like life insurance for life collectively, life as we know it. But then the part that I find personally most motivating is that it creates a sense of adventure, and it makes people excited about the future. If you consider two futures, one where we are forever confined to Earth until eventually something terrible happens, or another future where we are out there on many planets, maybe even going beyond the solar system, I think that second version is incredibly exciting and inspiring, and there need to be reasons to get up in the morning. Life can't just be about solving problems. Otherwise, what's the point? There's got to be things that people find inspiring and make life worth living.